This was the first and the only trip I've ever gone solo backpacking. Shall I say the last? And let me tell you why. My story took place back in 1998. I was fresh out of college, and me being me, so independent, I decided to take a little backpacking trip all by myself up to the Marble Mountain. This is in the Klamath National Forest in what I believe was the third week of August. The Klamath and the Marbles are a particularly rugged and steep terrain, but I figured this would be a good challenge for me. I wanted to show myself and prove to myself that I can do it. I was also a big finding myself kick back then. I think it was huge back in the 90s, if not now still. But that's another reason I went by myself. At the time, it was a beautiful morning and I had gotten up early. I had a friend take me up to the trailhead, and of course, on the way up, she tried to stop me. Are you sure you should be doing this alone? I don't want to get into this. I've been going back and forth with her and my family for over a month now. They pretty much had to get over it because they weren't changing my mind. She had her stuff packed just in case. She wasn't coming. I can't blame her though. Looking back, I would have given one last chance to change my mind too. I mean, let's be honest. Thinking back about it now was pretty damn stupid what I did. Doing that all by myself. Young woman in the woods. Hmm. With that being said, I headed out. I hiked from the Etna summit at the Pacific Crest Trailhead and looped all the way through the Wooley Creek drainage with a goal to attempt to hit the Cal Salmon River that day. My tent failed, of course, so I hiked to the Little Elk Lake instead and on out to the group of lakes outside of the Lovers Camp Trailhead for a full distance. On day one, I hiked over 14 miles on the PCT Trail south from Etna Summit. On day two, I left the trail and I hiked to a large marble outcrop above the Wooley Creek drainage below a large but very beautiful unnamed peak. I could pinpoint the definite location on a map if I had one, but I don't. I apologize to you. On the night of the second day of my trip, I slept on a nice marble ledge area besides a very small creek, 2 feet wide, that was more of an ice drainage from the steep glacial peak above. This creek ran down the ledge and off into a cliff about 200 feet drop down below into a boulder field. About 800 feet, if not more, down the Wooley Creek drainage. The 200-foot ledge down to the bottom was very steep. To the traditional climber, it would have rated at least a good 5.9 or a 5.10 Chauncey climb. Once settled down for the night, I had eaten a much needed meal. I had figured I would go to bed. Let's go to bed and get a good night rest for my long trip ahead in the following morning. There I was in my purple marmot bag, all cozy and tucked in, eyes getting heavy. The night was clear and it was 4 days before the full moon, so it was very bright that night. I was sleeping parallel to the little brook running along the marble edge and about 15 foot from the banks. After about 15 minutes, I had fallen asleep, but not shortly after that I was awoken. I was awoken by a weird but loud noise that seemed very far away at the time. I was already frightened as it was by the animals being all by myself and all the animals around me. Plus, being a female and all, I was scared. I was scared out of my mind, to be honest, but also at the same time having the time of my life. But no worries, the noise was so far away from me and way down the forest in the Wooley Creek drainage, I wasn't too worried. It was very loud though, almost like a yowling, a whooping sound. It was consistent and would occur one after another. I didn't worry too much though. Still, like I said, it was far enough away. I'm fine. As the yelling kept happening one after another, it got louder and louder. It seemed like it wasn't just getting louder, but closer. Closer to me, closer to where I was. But still, hey, I wasn't concerned. It was still far enough away, and plus, I'm atop a huge cliff, so to me I felt I was safe and unreachable at the time. However, the yelling got louder and even closer now. I started to travel up the boulder field below me now. That's when I started thinking to myself, there's no way. There's no way this thing can reach me. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm high enough here. I'm high enough up. It cannot reach me. You're okay. You're okay. I've heard this yelling for 20 minutes up to this point. Again, there was a consistent howl, a consistent whooping. I just laid still in my bag and realized that not only was this yelling thing getting closer and closer to me, but now it was in the boulder field below me. And now I believe climbing the cliff below me. Oh God. Sure enough, the creature was, and fast. The whole event started with this thing running and hooting and yowling up and down the drainage, and now up the cliff. Up the cliff beyond the top of the peak. Crap, what's next? Once it got to the cliff, it pulled itself up swiftly and agile, as I put in my journal later on. It literally climbed this 5.9 cliff and yanked itself up the side of the cliff like nothing. Nothing to the top where the ledge was where I was. Once atop, this creature continued to call and yelp, as like it was warning us something. It got to the ledge and started running towards the peak above me. As it got closer, I pretty much peed my sleeping bag, but I still laid still. I was extremely frightened at this point, as you can imagine. As it started to approach the ledge, closer to where I was, on the other side of the brook, I could see it. It was a silhouette of a huge running gorilla. It ran on two legs, but also dragged and pulled its arms at the same time. God, this thing was huge. The arms were almost the length of half its body and was covered in hair. It was black. But really, like I said, I only saw its silhouette. The head reminded me of an abominable snowman, just from the shape of it. It continued to run and howl, but suddenly then stopped. It stopped in a crouched position. When it was parallel to me, it stopped howling, and with a slow hesitation, it slowly rose to its feet. It turned its head from left to right towards my direction, as if sniffing in the air for something. My God, can this thing really smell me? I thought. But then it immediately dropped and turned forward. After one hop, it really started booking. I mean, this thing took off, but like a man this time. The creature had gotten louder and louder, then climbed up to the top of the peak and called for nearly 4 hours, until close to sunrise, if I remember correctly. I stayed awake the whole night. After that, who wouldn't? I got up the next morning and at sunrise gathered my things, and believe it or not, I continued on with my journey with no further incidents after that night. It wasn't as long as I planned it to be, but I went a little bit further, and it wasn't without the feeling of uneasiness and fear. Long story short, I got home, told my friends and family about it, and went back to normal everyday life. Of course, I'd got my fair share of hecklers, and surprisingly enough, from my family, I even got called out by my uncle that my Bigfoot story was BS. That's okay, though. That's fine. I wasn't too worried about it, and honestly, it's not like I can blame him. It's a pretty unbelievable story, if I do say so myself. But it happened. Take it or leave it, I guess. I just thought I'd share it with you here tonight. Cindy. Great story, Cindy. Wow, that's impressive. I hope I gave it some kind of justice, but I'm sure nothing from what you experienced, at least. Also, Jerry, you are my last month's winner. You'll be receiving your mug this week, hopefully. And if anything happens, please email me and I'll make sure I fix all that. Make sure you get your mug. And also, thanks again for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to GuardianOfTheWoods.com. You can also be my next month's winner of my Guardian of the Woods mug. So please stay tuned for next month, and I hope you subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.